All right. Good morning, everyone. It is November 5th, 9 a.m. The County and Regional Governance Study Committee is convening to review and discuss and I presume vote on the report that everyone's had time to review. We have some newer members to this committee due to some turnover and some veterans here. So thank you to the veterans for your working knowledge on this. And everyone's had a chance to review it. And so what I want to do first actually is just invite legislative counsel up to give us a run through on what's in front of us. And maybe before we do that, actually, I'm a little rusty, apologies. Why don't we just run through for everybody who's watching us, we'll watch this later, introduce ourselves briefly. Representative Matt Byron, Addison 3, Chair of House Government Operations and Military Affairs, and one of the co-chairs of this study committee.
Brian Collmore, State Senator, representing the 27 towns in Rutland County, and also co-chair here and chair of the Senate Government Operations Committee and a member of the Senate Agriculture Committee.
And if folks could introduce themselves online for us for the record.
Emily Karras Duncan, representative from Wyndham 6, Wilmington, Whitingham, and Halifax. And I sit on the Commerce and Economic Development Committee in the House.
Somebody jump in.
Want me to start calling on you?
I guess I'll go next, okay? Good morning, Senator Bob Norris. I represent Franklin County and the town of Elburg in Grand Isle County. I am Vice Chair of Senate Judiciary and I sit on the Appropriations Committee.
Good morning, Representative Mark Igley from the Orleans-Lamoille House District, and I sit on the Ways and Means Committee.
Hello, Wendy Harrison, Senator from Wyndham County, and I chair institutions and am clerk on the Transportation Committee.
All right, thank you, everyone. And I guess this is the part where I'll hand off to Legislative Counsel. Counsel, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you very much for having me in. Hello to all the committee members out there. For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. Indeed, the committee members should have access to draft 1.2, the County and Regional Governance Study Committee's report. This is that's numerous pages. However, most of it's appendices and attachments, including a legal memorandum, a copy of the Enabling Authority, that is Act 118, as well as some submitted materials from the Agency of Administration that were required of them. And well, that's really it. But the meat of the body of the report itself runs just a few pages, and I'm happy to kind of go through that quickly. Starting with the committee background and charge. All of this stems from a 2024 Act number 118, that is Senate Bill 159 as well. This created the County and Regional Governance Study Committee, and its charge was to address local government capacity challenges, enhance and optimize public safety, enhance regional collaboration and planning, address issues of efficiency, equitability, and transparent public resource allocation, as well as explore ideas of effective regional public service for individuals and municipalities. As you're aware, the committee is composed of 6 members, both from the House and the Senate, including two co-chairs from the sister committees of government operations in the House and Senate as well. Specific charges involved creating a report and submitting it to the legislature, particularly the Gov Ops committees in both chambers, by November 1st, 2025. And then of note, this committee will cease to exist for current statute July 1st, 2026. And skipping the particulars of the charges, unless the chairs would like me to kind of go through the enumerated charges in more detail. Okay, moving on. we have also, I should note that Act 118 created a technical advisory group that would essentially be on call to provide policy support to legislative study committee, that is this committee, if requested. And let's see, also the Act 118 required the Secretary of Administration to submit a report to this committee on federal funding opportunities resulting from the disaster declaration from flooding in 2023 in the state, including any received federal funds, the status pending applications for funding, and potential avenues for additional funding. This was submitted on September 16th, 2024, and is one of the appendices of this report. Moving on to the committee's work to date, study committee met 3 times in the summer and fall of 2024. And this was largely to orient itself with various topics involving regional governance and to take testimony from state and national subject matter experts. Let's see, those experts in testimony, you'll find there's various footnotes linking to presentations and matters shared with the committee. There's also a list of witnesses in one of the appendices. And as always, these outside of this report, links to witnesses and submitted materials can be found on the committee's webpage, the state legislature's webpage. Let's see. In those meetings, the committee took testimony from 10 witnesses, range of materials concerning things ranging from, let's see, the legal underpinnings of county and regional governance in Vermont. You'll find, in particular to that subject, a specific legal memo from myself in the office. Also took testimony on the construction of regional governance entities in the state and others, the relationship between Vermont's governance structures and the receipt of federal disaster relief funding, and some myriad other topics as well, relating to regional and county governance, that is. And let's see, while the study committee engaged in extended discussions on the matter of its charges, it did not produce any other written reports or recommendations during those meetings. The task advisory group, that is the subordinate technical advisory group, met independently twice in the summer and fall of 2024, and I don't believe they submitted any written materials either. So this brings us to the committee's transition and hiatus, as I've termed it here. The membership of the study was altered after the 2024 election and subsequent committee reassignment process, resulting in 2 new co-chairs, as well as we have 3 returning individuals, and the others are new to this committee, and this would be, I believe, their first formal meeting. Let's see. The study committee is newly composed, has met in interim only to approve this report. That's what we're doing right here today. This report includes some recommendations. Would the co-chairs like me to pause for kind of general conversation or go right into those recommendations at this point?
Any questions from any of the members at the moment?
I just had one, and it's maybe a real minute matter, but what's the difference between county and regional in terms of the title of this committee? I'm not entirely clear.
Great question. So counties, county governance, some aspects of existing government are constructed so that they fall completely within pre-existing county lines. That is, their jurisdiction perfectly overlaps with counties. And so we have superior courts, sheriffs, county clerks, things of that nature. Regional governances are subordinate government entities that are sub-statewide but above local and don't necessarily conform to those county lines. So you could have maybe a school district that goes by 2 different county crosses a county line. Not to say that school districts are what we're talking about here, but that's an easy example of something like that. Let's see. Often regional governances, government entities coincide in their boundaries with counties, but just not necessarily the case.
So the conjunctive "and" infers to me or implies that we could be doing both, that in some parts of the state, we could rely on the county jurisdictions, and in others, we could rely on regional.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
And I should add for further context, I believe in the deliberations in creating this bill, and it's the committee that coming from it. There was much discussion about how the federal government, and particularly FEMA, disperses funds, and typically they are kind of operating on a county basis, just because so many other states have much more robust county governance structure, largely because of one part history, one part size. Two, that's just kind of what FEMA kind of defaults to dealing with. And considering we don't really have much of a county governance structure in this state, that was the primary genesis of it, I think, just speaking generally. That's where one of the larger topics that came from here.
And so one of the aspects still in question, I believe, since the president has denied the ability for us to get the funding for the floods, if I'm remembering correctly here, within the last couple of weeks, some of that proposed funding at the moment at least doesn't exist. I don't know what that does to the report, but we're kind of on the hook for whatever we decide to do financially. Is that kind of a true statement?
I don't know if I can really speak with much knowledge.
Okay.
On that particular issue.
If I could, Mr. Chair, I just want to,
Please.
and Tim, I appreciate, and I know there are a couple of motions that I am ready to make at some point today regarding the chairs and the report deadline. But I see all the way from Spain, Senator Harrison's hand up. And so, half of the committee is completely new and half of the committee is returning. And Senator Harrison and Senator Norris are two of the ones that are on the committee from the past, and also Representative Higley. So Senator Harrison, you had something to add.
Yes, thank you, Senator. So just a couple of things. I'm serving on the school district redistricting, so I want to just make clear that that's not the only district that we would be talking about. Designated agencies, for example, the mental health agencies, those are state operations that have districts, but they're not aligned with any other districts. You know, they have a different transit agencies also have districts. So those are examples of other types of districts. And I just want to double check and make sure that this is correct. One of the reasons that this committee started was because there were concerns that we weren't receiving funding because we don't have robust counties. We do have counties, but they don't do as much as counties do in other states. But my understanding is that we did not lose any funding from FEMA because of our structure. There's a different way to receive the funding, but my understanding is that we did not lose anything as a state. So we can have that discussion in a future meeting, but I think that's important to talk about. And that's it for now.
Okay, no, that's very helpful, Wendy. I misspoke then earlier. Representative Higley.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with that. I mean, from my recollection, talking with the Chief Recovery Officer, Mr. Farnham, that was certainly talked about and addressed, stating that while the federal government seems to appreciate a more of a countywide government for dispersing funds, the funds did get dispersed throughout Vermont based on, the towns, the state and the towns. So I didn't, after hearing that, understand that there was a real problem, and especially when the funds had been sent out.
Okay.
I think like while we're in this vein of thought, one of the components is in my mind, as we move forward, is the restructuring of FEMA at the federal level also is not the same as it was when this original committee was set up to take a look at this. So there is that variable of how the federal government is restructuring how FEMA engages with states and then like at what depth and breadth. So having that more known moving into the future work, I think is also important to look at because that is an adjusted variable for us to take into consideration.
Yes, Wendy.
Senator.
So thank you. So I, by saying what I said previously, I didn't mean to say that there aren't a lot of good opportunities for us to examine in this committee. My opinion on why we're let me say this differently. What I think the best value of this committee is that it's an opportunity to make sure while towns are protected in terms of local control and autonomy, which I think is fundamental and now even more important to us to have direct democracy. I think there are a lot of ways that we could improve what we do as a state and align our regional services better without hurting either the town's autonomy or the direct relationship that towns have with the state, because that's also something that's very special about Vermont is how easy it is to connect with the state as a town. And I think we can find ways to save money and save costs and also increase accountability of those other activities that happen through the state.
No, thank you. And I totally understand completely where you're coming from with that. So thank you. Any other feedback or perspective on this component before we take a look at, I want to spend a little time taking a look at the additional pages, the actual language with council. Anything else?
Okay, so moving on to the recommendations embedded in this report. And I am at the bottom of page 4 of the report, just for orienting everybody. Let's see. So Act 118 gave the study committee a very broad charge. And while it had begun to formulate ideas on policy and legislative action, the committee now recognizes the need for additional time to thoroughly examine the subject matter and produce formal findings, especially in light of the new composition of the committee. Study committee therefore recommends that the General Assembly extend the reporting deadline in Act 118 to December 15th, 2026, essentially a year and change, pushing it back, and the date of the prospective appeal, sunset of the committee, to July 1st, 2027. So again, pushing it back a year. Also recommends that the committee have only one chair rather than two co-chairs to be elected from its members, and that the committee add to its charges an examination of the Agency of Administration's role in responding to all hazards events. And I should note that draft bill language to accomplish this can be found in Appendix 4. And skipping down to Appendix 4, which begins on page 11, we'll see something that looks very much like a bill, just kind of missing some of the side numbering there. But it Section 1B, having membership, this is where the chair language is adjusted. And so we have first new language having the committee elect its chair from its members. And then we have removal of the co-chair language in subdivisions B1 and 2. Going to the next page, we're on page 12 now in subsection C, section 1. We have the committee's formal charges laid out under 1A through now J. J is added, subdivision J that is, So that the agency administration's role in responding to all hazards is one of the considerations that the committee will examine. And then we have E right under that, which changes the report deadline from November 1st, 2025 to December 15th, 2026. And then under that, subdivision F4, where we change the sunset date from July 1st, 2026 to 2027.
Thank you, council. Any of the members have any questions on those adjustments, additions? Does not appear. All right.
Real quick, what was the reason, the 2027 deadline date again?
Sure. So the committee, under current law, will cease to exist halfway through this upcoming summer. And this will push it back an additional year, providing so that the report would be, if we didn't change that latter deadline, the report would be due after this committee ceases to exist. So this would provide additional time for this committee to complete its work on that report. And then it would exist approximately 6 months past the report date, so that if upon receiving this report, the House and Senate House GovOps committees want to require further investigation into some items from the committee still exists to provide additional time. And with that, it's a technical advisory committee when it dissolves. Occasionally.
Okay, so we're going to actually be in existence until that 2027 date, correct?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you.
So I have a question just procedurally. If the draft bill that's outlined in Appendix 4 is adopted today by this committee,
Mhm.
is it appropriate for us to take two of those recommendations and make them motions today in terms of electing a chair and also moving the deadlines for those two events out?
I would have to say it can be deliberated, but it wouldn't really have binding effect because under current law, that necessitates two co-chairs. And those are ex officio. And until that law is changed, the co-chair configuration of who chairs it also cannot be changed. Maybe a straw poll or something like that, something non-binding. But even if there were a straw poll today, a formal vote would have to occur after the change in law.
It's interesting that, to me anyway, the one of the recommendations was just a chair, but not a chair and a vice chair.
We can change that if.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we need to. I'm just, normally that would be the case rather than have two co-chairs, especially with a committee so small. I mean, we have 6 people. So I know where I'm leaning, but again, it's probably jumping the gun, I guess, but I like your idea of maybe a straw poll. Well, I think we do need to figure out the other issue, which I think we talked about earlier, Tim, is which chamber will advance the bill first, whether it'll come from the House or the Senate and then come across. And I'm fine going either way.
No, so with that, as vice chair of the committee of jurisdiction in the previous biennium when this was structured, I had my hands involved with the configuration and development of this. So that being said, I'm willing to take on the lead of the initial introduction of the legislation, move it out of the House chamber first and over to you if you find that amenable.
That was the direction in which I was leaning as well. I don't see anybody with their hand up or nodding no or shaking their head no. So at some point when this bill gets drafted and on the floor and accepted, I would suggest that we nominate Representative Matt Byron as the chair of this committee and just let it go with that. And I'll make that motion at some point in the future, I guess, right? We have to wait till it's passed is what I'm learning from Ledge Council.
And that's my understanding. We move this as a new bill when we get back in January.
Yeah.
And then it amends the structure. Makes these couple of additions and amendments, and then it processes through the process, and then it's restructured with that, so.
And the moving of both the repeal of the committee itself and the reporting deadline, I think is something that we could talk about too. I don't see any reason to change what the committee recommended in terms of pushing both of those dates out. So I would be in favor of doing that as well. Yep, Senator Harrison. I guess
Thank
I'm
you.
still
So
co-chair.
what?
You're co-chairing, do it, yeah.
So what is our status unless that bill gets passed?
So at this point, the way I'm understanding it is we, in theory, approve this report at the end of this meeting to conclude. Then the recommended language is put forward with council, drafted. We all can review that, and then the bill gets submitted on the House side for introduction when we return in January, and then starts the committee process here in the House. And my intention is to take that up very early in work in January. Move it over to the Senate as briskly as possible. Get it, reconfigured, restructured with the directives, and start the work itself.
So does this committee do nothing until that bill gets finished? And I don't remember what our termination date was.
Well, from my point of view, we've already missed the deadline for the report, which was
Right.
a couple of weeks ago or
5 days ago.
But the committee itself still exists until July 1st of 2026. So we would have the ability to keep meeting, even though we've missed the deadline for our report.
Okay.
If I'm
That's a
understanding-
fair point. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Because we might want to meet.
Oh, no, I totally agree. No, that's a good point. I wasn't putting the pieces of the function
Yeah.
together in that way. You're correct, senators. So.
Okay, so then my suggestion or my hope would be that we would meet just to keep things moving. And it would be an opportunity to, if we notice things or reasons that we might want to amend the pending legislation, we'll be active enough to make those suggestions.
Yeah, I'll fall back on Tim's recommendation, but I think they're two separate events. The deadline for the report is one instance of legislation, but the committee can continue to meet until July 1st or until this new draft is accepted, which gives us another year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I
Okay,
agree
good.
I agree with you, Senator, and I'm not sure how quickly I don't think we'll meet again until we convene, but early in January, I wouldn't have a problem reconvening this group and getting more witnesses in. I've received a lot of letters and contacts about what the committee could possibly do. One of them is a former senator from your district, Senator Harrison, who is pretty much an expert, I would say, or at least has an interest in this, Senator Jeanette White. So if that sounds reasonable, that's what I would suggest going forward, is that we put the bill in as early as we can, get it passed, but continue to meet in the interim and take testimony on what ways we can push this forward.
That's great. I support that. Thank you.
Yep.
Senator Doris.
Yes, good morning once again. Having been involved in holding a government or a county position was my interest in asking to be on this particular committee. The charge that we've been designated is, I think, very broad. As we all know, there really is no such thing as county government in Vermont. We have county elected officials. The closest that we come are assistant judges who are allowed to go up to 5 cents without approval from the voters. I would like to see, due to the fact that we have 3 committee members who were on for the 3 meetings that we did have, and 3 who were not, that I'd like to identify the possibility of, do we approach this from a county level, or do we approach this from a regional level? Because the county level seems to be something that we probably can't obtain, just due to the fact that we don't have commissions, we don't have commissioners, taxation, and so on and so forth. And we very well could do that. Don't get me wrong, but I'd like to see us identify which direction we want to go, county versus, in the final report, county versus regional, and how do we get there? Because in looking at just under one of the charges, enhancement and optimization of public safety. Well, I can assure you, we've been dealing with this for decades. The not only the public safety portion of it, but the dispatching portion of it as well. So with the limited number of meetings that we have, I would suggest that we hone in on those things that we feel that we can make a difference on or can attack and make it better. But I think that Doug Farnham, I don't know if you all want to see everybody come back of the original 12 or 13 witnesses to let you know what transpired. But when it comes to the money portion, such as Senator Harrison had indicated, Doug Farnham obviously is a huge resource in letting this committee know as to the funding mechanisms and what we haven't been getting and why, or if we have been getting all the funding that we need. So I'd like to see this narrowed down a little bit, I guess, and we can identify which areas we really want to concentrate on, because it's a big charge with a limited number of meetings that we've been assigned on this. So thank you.
No, that's a very fair point. And once we can review this language while it's in bill form and it evolves. But I do agree with you. There's a lot to take a look at here. So if we as a group with this charge and duty and authority want to refine it, that is an open conversation to the members, for sure.
I think just to follow up, Representative Byron, I think it's when Doug comes in and testifies, that I think we may be looking for a clearer mechanism, I guess, if in fact we're not receiving the fundings through the federal government. And right now, I guess that's not an issue as far as receiving fundings through the federal government. But I think we're looking for a cleaner mechanism, and how do we get there? Because I know that when I used to apply for grants to the federal government, they won't accept my signature as the agency head. And they asked for the county commissioner and so on and so forth to move forward, where in fact I could show them statute that said that, no, I do have the authority to sign for these grants. But in order to make it easier, I simply just went to one of my assistant judges. They signed off on it, and they took it without blinking an eye here. So it may be, how do we get to that point, and what is that mechanism? Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Senator, and it goes along with some of the stuff I've started to think about. Are we in the end going to take responsibility off municipalities and put it in the hands of another entity, whatever we call that? And how are we going to pay for that? Are we going to seek just federal money through grants or the like to make this happen? Or are we looking for taxes to be levied on people to come up with this entity, whatever we call it? So I do think there's a lot of questions still remaining. And whether we do a county model or a regional model or kind of a hybrid of both, I have to think the Northeast Kingdom would probably be in a little bit different position than Chittenden County in terms of structuring this. But I could be way off base on that too. But I think we do need more of a clear picture as to what functions will remain at that local municipal level and what would be moved up to more of a regional decision making, and how we're going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like how you shift the power and authority to what we may or may not create. Yeah, above the municipalities, or if it's just structuring new aid and resourcing and technical support for the application process and navigating it for the smaller municipalities. Whereas larger municipalities have internal staff and resources that far exceed the smaller ones. So in my mind, it's trying to figure out how to like navigate that sort of like resource and capacity imbalance between the smaller municipalities to the larger ones. So they all have the same ability to like apply for grants, apply for relief, and, you know, just for lack of a better way of putting it, not getting left in the dust by somebody who's more resourced and has the ability to act faster. So that's sort of where my mind's at.
Just to jump in on that, I will say my interest in this partly comes from my background in nonprofits and the difficulty of resourcing and maintaining grants and reporting and that sort of thing. I think that there's a large opportunity here to not just help our municipalities, but also the nonprofit organizations that support a lot of the local work and receive funding from local grants and municipalities, to think about our kind of regional or county structure as more of a development office in a type of way, thinking about what having a scope on what projects people are doing and how to best kind of consolidate efforts so that we're not spread so thin, with a lot of that administrative capacity. And I would also just say that we're talking a lot about emergency and FEMA funding, which I think is very important, but this also trickles down to a lot of our economic development funding too.
Excellent point, Emily. Excellent point. I think to Senator Norris's point too, we're in a situation now, he mentioned dispatching, just as one little kernel of what we could be talking about. There are places in the state, I think in Windham County, where law enforcement uses New Hampshire people to dispatch that local law enforcement group. I think in Rutland County, there's also in New York, people that are sitting dispatching Vermont law enforcement. So, and whereas I think again, in the more urban areas in Chittenden County, that's not the case. So, you know, different people are at different stages of this. And I think we just need to keep that in mind as we're moving forward.
Representative Hagley.
Yeah, thank you. Another thing that just came to mind, and I'm sorry, my notes of our 3 meetings are buried and I can't find them, but I know that we had other folks that sat in on our meetings that certainly had a stake and were interested. Ted Brady from the Vermont League, UVM, and others. And I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could contact those folks and at least let them know what we're thinking, you know, as far as moving forward.
Well, Attorney Devlin's provided us with a list of people that testified, so I don't think that'll be hard to reconnect with them. And I don't know that we need, I think it was 11 witnesses, something like that. I don't know that they all need to come at the same time, but we can hold a couple of meetings and invite them back. Yeah.
And a lot of those individuals who were observing last time were members of the technical advisory group too. And just looking at that, I mean, they had representatives from states, Department of State's attorneys and sheriffs, court administrator, county judges, planning development agencies, Vermont League of Cities and Towns, Regional Development Corporation, School Board Association, et cetera. And then it was actually kind of open-ended, I believe, so that the study that other relevant stakeholders identified by the technical advisory group could join them as well.
And I will say that a lot of the stakeholders and interested parties that we're speaking to right now reached out to me independently and are aware that we're, you know, moving forward with this process after it's stalled. And they are definitely enthusiastic about coming in, offering insight and opinion. So I don't think there'll be a shortage of folks who want to come to the table.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. So just finally, like taking a look at the proposed language, any other questions or feedback right now on the initial words on the page? That's just something I want to make sure we dialed in today as an agreeable point, starting point. So we can get this, I can get this formally submitted for a drafting request and a submission with council. So, yes, Senator Norris.
Yeah, so is it my understanding that we still can continue to meet, but according to Brian, we're quite possibly going to meet during the session also, or if we get it extended, do we have to meet during the session?
We have the ability to meet during the session because the configuration of the committee exists right now is still maintained while this bill process moves forward to extend the dates. So we do have that ability to meet formally and do work. Yes.
I was just curious. I'm not going to hang my hat on whether we meet or not, but I'm just curious.
The structure exists for us to do so, and I believe that's the intent. You know, we can target dates as a group to do that and, you know, focus our energy on who to bring in first. And, you know, that's just the detail work within these study committee structures. But yes, I think it would be wise for us to continue to like plug at this while this new bill moves forward to extend the dates, the charges and duties.
Thank you.
And I am looking here. Is there anything else to offer, council, from your perspective on this?
Let's see. Not really. Aside from a recommendation to new members and maybe continuing members, want to familiarize yourself quickly with where the committee's been, I would recommend reading through the legal memo about the powers of this committee and state legislature to shift or to create county and regional governance. We'll sneak peek of that. There's wide powers that exist. And so the committee should feel free to explore that. And also the attached report that came in from the Secretary of Administration. That is a great primer on some of the basic issues that this committee is going to be examining as well. And then everything is hyperlinked, and all those links should be working quite well. And just making your way through those or just randomly selecting a few that may kind of pique your interest is a great way to orient yourself.
No, thank you for that. Yeah. No, there's a lot of information here from all of that for us to capitalize on. So I appreciate you making that point. And even a proposed map.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, I guess that kind of leaves us at the ultimate goal of the day, the report itself, for approval and submission from the committee.
Does anyone want to move, or I can?
Yeah, I move that we approve the report as written.
Second.
Okay. Any formal discussion, feedback, or opinions before we take a position as a committee?
Let me just ask Village Council if I could. Does the approval of that report include Appendix 4, which outlines the specific language for the draft bill?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, I should also note that upon receiving a drafting request, which I'll consider this drafting request as we've spoken about it, you know, as it goes through, let's see, if modifications to that language are wanted, Co-Chair Byrong, as the bill's sponsor, could be contacted. He could, you know, it's up to his discretion at that point to modify it before it's introduced. Upon introduction and then assignment to committee, then it's at the discretion of committee. That House Committee of GovOps likely would receive it, I imagine, and they can modify it. And then as it goes to Senate GovOps Committee, they can modify it as regular procedures entail. But right now, this would be presumed to be the language for introduction.
Yeah. And the way I see that sort of evolving, right? Like, even though it's going through the standing committees within the House and the Senate, this committee will obviously have strong ability to have feedback to the language as it evolves while we're discussing it at the committee. So. Okay. Anything else, folks? All right. So, all in favor of accepting the report as presented? Want to do this as individual votes or thumbs up, thumbs down?
Sure, we can ask for a roll call.
Was that an affirmative hand or a hand offering an opinion, Senator?
That was just a vote, yes.
Oh,
Okay, gotcha. All
Which,
right, all
because
right.
I'm fine doing a hand vote if you are.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we can do a hand vote. It's all digital. It's all transparent. So all those in favor, please show affirmative hand signal. All right. All those opposed show a unfavorable hand signal. All right. That looks like a 6-0-0 to me. All right. Thank you, everyone. No, I'm excited to get this ball rolling again. There's a lot of interest within the public and government, quasi-government, municipal stakeholders, et cetera, on seeing what good we can do for Vermonters. So I appreciate everyone's time this morning. Senator, please enjoy Spain. And yes, Council.
One other item I'd like to say, this report will be submitted to both government operations committees. This is who will receive the next.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if there's nothing else to add, I guess I'll close the meeting and everyone enjoy their cloudy day. I don't know how it is in Spain, but thank you all
Cloudy.
for your time. I look forward to
Thank
cloudy.
you.
All right. I appreciate everybody's time and wow, we are running ahead of schedule. So well done, team. I appreciate that. And with that,